hopefully, is anything kind of coming together for you more now, or?
It is coming together for sure.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, that this the discussions, and it's a good thing that Stu mentions. He'll provide recommendations in terms of strategy for, especially for Bill and I, since we're starting new.
Uh-huh.
So those recommendations kind of help, those tips, because those are things that are just behind. They're just nagging. I'm going, okay, what do we do with this? What do we, how are we going to handle this? So those kind of recommendations, those help.
Good. So
Hey,
hi,
Teresa.
Akram. Hi, Stan. How are you?
Okay.
Good. Glad you guys are here. So we're just kind of I'm just checking in, seeing how things are going since it's been a couple of days since I spoke to you guys, and seeing if there's anything that has come up for you on, or any kind of lingering questions right now before we kind of get started on anything.
Every question we had, they've answered.
Uh,
Okay.
Question for Chris: the spreadsheet which Stuart showed us in the class, that is available in the Continuum, right?
It will be shortly.
Oh, okay,
I've got
okay.
most of his information. I'm still waiting on one other doc, and I will load that pricing spreadsheet and some of the other and the video that we'd asked for. That's coming my way now. So
Okay,
I will look that in while Teresa's talking to you.
okay. Thank you, sir.
Of course, thank you.
Hey, Teresa, just real quick. So,
Uh-huh.
I mean, you're my coach. I don't know if you're the coach for everybody else on this call, but so I think for the next 2 years, right, you're going to be helping us guide us through our business. So will you be answering questions with regards to service delivery as well, or do we go directly to Stu?
So I can answer some service delivery questions, but not deep. So more on the service delivery side, kind of general service delivery, not deep technical pieces.
Okay.
And not necessarily, it's like I won't tell you how to go log into the Continuum portal, how to do this and how to do. There's a few things I can do. It's been a long time since I've been hands-on that way. But managing techs, managing clients through the expectations, through some projects, I can help with those kind of things, but
Okay.
not necessarily what's the best technical solution for this. I have, there's a few things that we definitely have that are that we have good solutions for, but that are part of our standard solution set. But if there's one-off things, like right now we still don't have really good cloud solutions, so I'm going to refer you to Ian or Stuart on those things.
Okay. Okay.
And they have office hours like every week. So one of the things that we will be doing afterwards is we like to keep the group together as a team and do additional training going forward after we could finish these 2 weeks. And I will take you guys, the people in the group here. Well, I'll take you guys through for, on a regular weekly basis when we'll meet together as a group. And then where there's many times there's questions and things that we can learn from each other along the process. Is, the more, if Bill's got 2 assessments and you've got 1 assessment and whatever, in different scenarios, we can walk through those together as a group, and everybody learns and progresses along the way. So we'll stay together as a group on a weekly basis, and then every 2 weeks or so we'll probably do more individual coaching on an individual one-on-one basis. But many times the issues and challenges that you have are some of the same issues and challenges that the group is having. So that's what that will look like going forward. But then you still have the sales office hours, the service delivery office hours, partners and product office hours with Ian, Salesforce office hours with Adrienne. So we've got lots of opportunities for you guys to get in and kind of grow and continue the learning after this training.
When do we sell anything?
Okay, so not everything is mandatory, but it's a great place to have a one-on-one kind of, well, one to few conversations and learn for more, with more learning or ask very specific questions.
Yeah, so it's this open, free forum that we're, it's okay for us to go to, but it's not like somebody's going to check off, say, hey, who's missing. Yeah, it's open, right?
Right, exactly. So if you're not out selling, we want, it's come to some of these places where you can learn, specifically Salesforce and the sales office hours. Those are probably the most important people, because you're still going to be developing your sales skills in the process. But we don't take, we're not your boss. But so we're not taking attendance, we're not checking the box. But if somebody's struggling to sell and they're not attending some of these events and kind of growing and continuing to perfect their learning and their skills, then that's where we're going to kind of go, okay, well, you got to practice, and you got to come here and learn more if you're still struggling with the sales process. Cool.
Yeah, that makes sense. Stan, we are supposed to be grown-ups, so we will be treated as such.
Yes, exactly. I know all of you guys are very well astute in your careers and your past and your background. So exactly, we're going to treat you like adults, but we want you to continue to grow, and we want the best for you and the best success for your businesses. And sometimes that does mean you come to the office hours and learn. All right. So today we are talking about outsourcing. Are you guys ready to get started?
Yes, we are.
Okay, good. I'm going to share.
Yeah, it's a little difficult. Before speaking, you need to make sure you're not muted.
Yeah, I forgot I was on mute when I was answering, so nobody answered. I guess you didn't hear anybody because we were all muted.
So, yeah, and obviously I wasn't looking, so I'm sorry if I missed you. Did you say you were ready to get started?
Yes.
Okay. All right, good. Okay, let me share the screen here.
So, Teresa, you are in Austin, right?
Play. It does the wrong screen. Let me stop share and share the right screen here. Okay. Now, hold on a second. Share. And let's share screen 2. Okay. There we go. All right. So this is Outsourcing 101. And what we're going to learn today is there's my script. So we're going to learn today is we're going to talk about outsourcing. Why are we doing outsourcing? How are we going to select our outsourcing vendors that we're going to work with? What are the functional areas that we specifically outsource, and why we outsource them? How do we evaluate their performance? And then how are we managing them, that relationship? Because no matter what, anytime you outsource something, it doesn't mean it's a set it and forget it. It's you've got to manage the relationship and kind of build that, tweak things. And going back to that adaptability that we talked about in the mindset piece is being able to adapt our relationship with the vendor to be able to get the results that we're looking for. So why do we outsource? If you look at all these little sticky notes, and those are probably a lot. If you imagine each one of those is a task that must be completed in your business, right? So all of those sticky notes to make it run properly. This is one of the reasons that we need to outsource, because you can't do all this. It's hard to, if you've ever done one of those multitasking tests, have you ever done one of those multitasking tests where they tell you to stop this, stop that, do this, do that, and it's like the switching piece of it, doing so much of that takes too much time and energy, and it's error prone. Has anybody done that? No? Maybe we'll do that one of these days. We can do that exercise. It's a really good exercise because it's much, when you start and stop different tasks and you pick up something along the way, and it becomes much more error prone, and it's much more stressful for you as a person. So the more we can outsource and let you focus your job on being sales and driving new sales, the more you're going to be successful. So there's other reasons too. So like specifically, we are telling people that they need to outsource their IT, right? So if we're telling them they need to outsource their IT to the professionals, why would we not outsource other areas of our business to the professionals, right? So outsourcing is overall, it's one of our values that we have as an organization. It's not necessarily written on the wall, but it's an implied value that we have because we value and appreciate outsourcing people who outsource their IT, and it's appropriate for them. So we want to be able to outsource, be able to implement some of that. It's like kind of eating your own dog food, kind of doing that thing where we're, if we're not really good at, I know several of you guys are good at finance, right? But for those of us who are not really good at finance, being able to outsource that is a really great strategy. So the other some of the other reasons why we want to outsource is that we don't have to have more employees to manage, right? I mean, when I sold my IT business, I said, my next business, I don't want to have any employees. I don't want to have any employees that I have to manage. I don't want to, and specifically, I didn't want employees to do the service delivery because it was a pain in the rear end. I don't mind doing other employees to do other things, but they're not necessarily customer facing. Hence why I have an independent consulting business by myself. So again, by the outsourcing, it allows you to focus on lead generation, sales, doing the sales outreaches, and actually conducting sales. So that's what's most important for the growth of your business. Okay, so my swapping is not working. So anyway, let me go back to the last one. So, oh goodness gracious, I'm sorry. So tell me why else might we want to outsource some of these tasks? Any other ideas?
Maybe because we're lazy.
Because
Okay.
we're not knowledgeable.
Uh-huh.
I mean, we talked about the finance piece. So that's definitely at that point what you want to do, unless you really, really know how to do it. I mean, yeah.
And also I think time, value of your time, and if somebody else can do for less, so you gain that time and you can do something better in that time.
Right, exactly. Good.
I think one of the most important things for the owner is to think about the vision and the long-term goals rather than getting bogged down with nitty-gritty, especially if somebody else can do it for them.
Right. Exactly. Looking at the bigger picture instead of getting so focused and minutia into the more mundane pieces and the more the intricacies of the business versus looking at the big picture and the overall picture. Because if you're so focused, narrow focused on new sales, you may not be noticing that you're not profitable. So you can add more sales, but if your current sales aren't profitable or your pricing isn't profitable, sorry, the dogs are going to go nuts here, then it doesn't make sense for you to do that. Let me shut the door. Hold on a second. So I have a basset hound who thinks he's very protective of the house, no matter. And my husband loves to say that never has FedEx person ever invaded our house or stole anything from our house. Okay, so what you guys probably heard in in validation, two things that are probably very important. There's never enough time to get everything done, right? Did anybody hear that in validation? Too much to do?
Yes,
I see.
yes. But I heard both the things.
Yeah, and the other one is that your most expensive thing is your text. They cost the most amount of money. That's where most of our cash goes to, and the text. So that one of the outsourcing helps with both of these issues, and that's why it's so important. So it's like we're talking about your capacity. Tan, you mentioned it earlier. So we all only have 24 hours a day. Nobody really wants to work 24 hours a day. We have families. We have to sleep. We have to eat. We have to kind of do social things. We need to do all these other responsibilities that happen there. So how many hours do you want to work a week? If you want to do everything and work 24 hours a day and take on it all yourself, that's great. But that's not necessarily how we want this business to be, because it's not helpful for your family. I know most of you are looking at this business to help build a legacy and to help build an asset and to build and to have some personal freedom. So not necessarily do we want to work all the time. So how many hours are you willing to work each week? So if you're talking every day, you're going to work 60 hours a week. That may be true, and you might have to do that just to get the sales side sometimes, but we don't want you to do that all the time. And so whatever happens when you hit capacity, how do you respond when you hit your capacity for work?
You don't realize you have hit your capacity. You start making more mistakes, and you realize maybe after 6 months.
What else happens?
You tend to burn out then after that.
Yeah.
You have got health impacts. It impact your health. Other, family,
Yeah.
work-life balance.
Yeah, your health suffers, and right now's not a good time for your health to suffer, right? What about your family? Most of the people I know that when they hit capacity, they're not really nice people.
Irritable.
Irritable, grumpy, angry, they lash out. And so, and you don't, not intentionally, but it's just because of that stress that is happening because you're overworking. And so we don't want any of you guys to get into that scenario. Because we talked about, remember we were talking about on Tuesday, we were talking about personal growth, and we're growing personally, and the business is growing, but at the same time, we're also have that stress, the health, we want to keep it in the healthy stress, when you the rubber bands, you probably heard that analogy too. When you pull out a rubber band, stretching it a little bit is good to kind of expand the ability, but if you pull it too far, it'll break, and we don't want to get you guys to that breaking point. So we want to be able to expand the capacity of your personal growth and your confidence and your abilities, but we don't want to break you. Okay, so that's why some of the things that we push this outsourcing piece. So again, what happens to the business? What happens to the business when you're stressed? You're at capacity and overworked.
You start making mistakes, and that could have a big impact on the business, because you start to then and I know in the past I would gravitate to something I'm more comfortable with in that situation, and then something that's more important ends up missing, and I don't give it the attention it really needs, because my mindset, I'm like, okay, let me just do this because I know I'm real comfortable with this, but that may not be the highest priority. So your business can be impacted in a negative way.
Exactly. Yep. And where do you want to become an expert? What area do you want to become an expert in?
Business growth.
Business growth, great. Yes. And how do businesses grow?
You be nice.
Getting new customers.
Yeah, sales.
new customer sales, business vision, kind of what we were talking about Ekram earlier too, is like you focusing on the bigger picture and being able to focus on the sales side of the business. That's where you're going to add the most value, and that's going to be the most valuable thing for you to focus on in order to grow your business. Even if it's even for the future after this, if you end up selling this business, like I did, learning these sales skills and being able to do that will be able to help you, very far into the future. All right, so how do we select vendors? And I think I probably need to kind of we're looking at vendors across different categories. And so many times what we're going to do is you want to ask people, right? So you can ask franchisees, you can ask people in your network currently, you can, people that you know already. They may be great people that you can outsource to. Other franchisees. You can also check reviews. You want to check credentials, check all those different kind of things, whether it's there's lots of questions that we'll kind of get to later on, but you want to do background checks for people and the vendors that you work with, and make sure you thoroughly understand. I was actually true story, I actually was going to go into business with somebody because a friend of mine was going to go into business with them. And it was actually, and I tell you, I did a lot of background check on this guy once I figured out that the contract was kind of goofy. I did a lot of background check on him, and he has, all of his previous businesses were unapproved by the Better Business Bureau. They had bad ratings. There was a lot of negative stuff. He's left a lot of baggage from people that he's worked with in the past across all, and you can find it all on the internet. So doing background checks, and whether it's official background checks or kind of just Google searching, you can find a lot of information, and that will help you decide whether you want to work with a vendor.
So Teresa, you said you can do a lot of background check using Google search
Yes.
for the business or the person?
Business and the person. Yeah, the part, right now, one of the things that I do too is you look at, if the business is big enough, they'll be on other companies, other websites, like Glassdoor. If they treat their employees like crap, and you'll see a lot of feedback like that on Glassdoor. If the company treats their employees poorly, then they may not treat their customers as well. And do you want to be involved with a company that treats their employees poorly?
So, hey, Teresa, can I add a point to that?
Sure.
I'm going to teach y'all a trick on how to get the best meal of your life for free. Number one thing that franchisors talk about with their franchisees a lot of times is there's nothing worse than a negative review, right? So my wife loves to go to dinner. If it's terrible, she doesn't say, can I talk to the manager? She says, I'll make sure that I let social media know how terrible the service was. And you want to watch people flip on a dime. That social media is so important, not just for us, but for everybody else. So when she says go out and look for reviews and do that on companies, partners, all that kind of stuff, that's one of your big tells, especially when looking at a vendor, right? She's absolutely right. It's one of the things I'm trying to integrate onto our website. It's not there yet. Teresa, was like, come on, Rob, get it up. And I'm trying to get that stuff on to Connect. We just don't have that piece there, but I want you to be able to vote on our vendors, right? And give your reviews so you guys don't have to make mistakes with certain ones. We have general comments, but we don't have, a detailed review by review on those. So just make sure you do what she says. It's a great way. It's also, like I said, a great way when somebody really makes you upset and they don't want to listen to you. Even credit card companies and things like that tell them, no problem. I'm not going to complain to your manager. I'll just put it on social media how terrible you were. And usually it gives you a different response than what you get with the old, let me talk to your manager.
That is true. So I use Twitter for you can get the best customer service you can get sometimes is on Twitter. reaching out to the company that's you have it, especially for the big companies. So, you know, if you have a question with them or you have a challenge with a big company, love Twitter for that.
So would we want to focus on the vendors that you guys provide anyway, because you've kind of done all that work for us, especially in the beginning? I mean, to me, it would make sense that the vendors you've already vetted. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Robert. Sorry about that.
No, I say when you're done. I was gonna.
Okay.
I'm gonna
Yes.
address this.
Yeah, that's all I was saying.
So that's part of the reason I was in on this call is when it comes to product partners, right? I'm always going to give you, hey, this is where you got to go, right? Or here's the one or two partners that you're going through. If you go outside of that mix anymore for all the new franchisees, you got to have our permission. When it comes to vendors, it's one area that if I really want to tick you all off, I limit your vendors when it comes to relationships. And I'll give you two reasons why. Number one is Bill might know a CPA that he can get in with eventually that's in his local market. And by being a customer of his, he gets that account. I don't want to limit you to that, right? Or you're an HR person or something like that. We will give you advice on places that other franchisees go. But when it comes to back office system relationships, I'm very careful, Stan, to mandate that because of that freedom. So I just want you to understand why we don't go in and say, hey, absolutely go with this accounting department or this accounting company. I can tell you who I like. I'll give you my personal opinion every day, but I don't want to limit you to saying, hey, I can get this account or this account if I have a relationship, or they give me access because of my BNI into 3 other companies or all of theirs, and we've got an agreement for a referral process. So just to give you an understanding, we don't do that on the vendor, back office vendor side, if that makes sense.
Okay, cool.
So just to be clear, in case you guys have, you know, this can be a very nuanced difference. So that partners, our approved partners, are people that we resell products for, or they are critical to the service delivery piece. Vendors are the people that support us in our business, but we don't necessarily resell to any clients. In case that was clear, I don't know if anybody's ever cleared that up. Sometimes it can be a nuanced difference. All right, so the areas that we focus on for outsourcing are the accounting and tax piece, the bookkeeping, any kind of that on the numbers side, and the marketing, hiring and recruiting new team members, legal services, and technical services. So those are the 5 areas that we typically outsource. Got it? Questions? Okay, so let's, I'm gonna block her. So let's talk about the tech side. So most of the time, like I said earlier, our biggest expense is on the tech side. So the more that you can outsource on the tech side and be able to outsource these resources into your team, the better that you're going to be able to if you don't have to have a full-time tech on your side, be able to outsource the tech is probably one of the cheapest ways that you can have IT support services for your business. And so we're going to dig in a little bit here to some vendors, and I can show you. Let me get out of my screen share here and out of the slideshow here and show you. So what we're going to do now is we're going to kind of go onto the Connect website. Can you guys see my Connect website?
Yes.
Okay. So right here at the top is the product partners. So those are things that we resell. And then down here are the vendors. Those are the things that we outsource. But so even though there's not really cool smooth lines between all these things, because it's just there's little they overlap so much, so it's hard to be very distinct in everything right now. But so if we're talking about outsourcing technology support services, we've got a couple of places that you can go to outsource the technology services. So I'm going to skip over some of these, but if you look right here, help desk. The help desk is one of the cheapest support systems you have and the cheapest resources that you have. And we have 2 help desk organizations that we use. Has Stuart gone through any of this with you? Has he walked you through Continuum help desk?
Yes, a little bit, yeah.
Okay. And the pricing?
Yes, we went through the
Yep.
pricing, basic pricing.
Yep.
Okay. So you've got the pricing for help desk all right here. And, you know, if you've got a 24/7 help desk person to be able to help you for $20 a month, that you can't get that anywhere, right? And that's a great price to be able to help you on your team. And so you need to sell help desk, because if you're not selling help desk services, who is the help desk?
You are.
Right. And do you want to answer all those calls that say, hey, Bill, my Excel isn't working. Can you help me? Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah. No, you because hopefully you're doing prospecting, you're doing research, meeting new people, probably going on sales calls, doing all these other things that you don't need to be answering phone calls from end users. That just isn't a valuable ad for your business and for you to do that work. So having a help desk, so everything you sell should have a help desk component. Cheapest resource available.
Hey, Teresa, can I have one point before I have to jump out of here
Uh-huh.
on this? Bill, I know you've kind of hooked up with Steve Gray and you've got some conversations there. We've kind of tracked this number from a cost perspective. Until you get to about 300 endpoints, insourcing it's an issue. There will be a natural time when you get to about 300 endpoints where you have to ask yourself some questions on, am I paying too much for a help desk when I could hire somebody? But by that time, hopefully you've got the leadership skill set to hire and do all that. All we're trying to say is for today, you're going to hear a lot of franchisees, I kept it all in-house. Guys, be careful. I'm just telling you, be careful with that. It's going to cut you to knees, and I promise. And Bill, I know Steve's a big fan of that as well, as there's a point where it makes sense. But don't focus on that in the beginning. When she talks about these outsourcing things, you're going to hear a lot of noise. Like I said, walk across the border. You're going to be attacked by all these vendors telling you what to do. Listen to us very carefully. Don't try to insource your help desk. Don't try to build a NOC. Don't try to build a SOC. Like this, that is not a good use of your time day one. One other thing, just in case we don't touch it, Continuum does offer a resource that you can actually purchase overseas in India for like minimal skill sets and stuff. It's called a dedicated tech. You can get them in both level 1, level 2, and level 3. And I'd say they're project based. I wouldn't hire one today that supports your people, but they are there as well as they do project work. So it's always worth talking to them about project work if you're trying to contract something before you turn around and try to do it yourself. So with that, guys, I got to go talk about a 500-seat deal. I'm excited to talk about a government deal, which is not fun. So I've been studying up on NIST and everything else today, and I'm about brain dead. So sorry, I got to run.
Hey, Rob, before you run, what level of tech is Robin?
Robin's a level 1/2. He's sold
Okay.
a 2 now, but Robin is our dedicated tech from Continuum that you guys see that does all the email, sets up your email accounts, does all that. Because we found that the remedial tasks were what was costing us our technicians. So we outsourced a lot of those remedial things. And by the way, dealing with franchisees, 192 of you on whitelist on your email became something we had to get out of our hands here at home office. So we kind of pushed that overseas as well. So He's like a level 1, level 2, solid 2 now.
Got it.
But we interviewed them all, and Robin was the best one we had. So you can interview them. They give you interviews. You don't pay until you find the right one. And I can give you some referrals on who's using them out in the system if you need them. Thank you, guys.
Well, thank you.
So Teresa, quick question. First is for the US-based help desk, which says business hours, the monthly price is $19.36. That's per seat, right?
Yes.
So that gets you a level 1, a level 2, what kind of support? And
So it. Go ahead.
and then I had a second question. Who decides the level of the job? Is there a standard?
So this is so it's a help desk. So you don't get to choose who you get on the help desk, other than the fact that it's whoever's the nearest technician on the help desk in the U.S. based help desk. They get the first. It just random kind of rotates through the calls, so anybody could pick up that call first.
Right.
So it's not a particular employee.
Right. I understand that part, but what should I expect from that help desk? Like, if you call them, and in my mind, if it's a very difficult issue, can they solve it, or they cannot solve it, or they can?
So the keys to making a help desk work best is the documentation. So the documentation that you have about that organization, the more that documentation that you give to the help desk, the more that they're going to be able to help somebody. So there are limits to what they can do. There's standard solutions to typically, level 1, level 2, and things they can escalate if they need to. But their natural escalation after a couple of the tech piece is to escalate to your team, your local tech team.
Okay. Yeah. So is there a list or database where you can say this job, that's level 1, everybody knows that, or is there a standard framework?
Yeah, I don't know the answer to that. That would be a Stuart kind of question, but or with your onboarding, when you're onboarding with Continuum, is asking those kind of questions and getting that information of what they can and can't do. Because I don't know if they don't have any other information here. So usually, this information here on the Connect is supplemental to what's on the Continuum's website. So once you log into their vendor portal, and they've got marketing information, they've got technical information that you can look in their education side. And also you've got your onboarding specialist who can help you answer some of those questions. Good?
But
Can I follow up on Tan's question there? So if I call the help, or I create have a ticket out there for the help desk, and I put all the details in there, does it still go to level 1? And then once they're going to try to tackle it, and if they can't figure out, they escalate. Because my concern there is, or do they go directly, if they know, oh, I need this level of expertise, let me go directly. I'm just concerned about the time taken, right, to resolve the issue. Because if you're trying to figure, oh, let me do level 1 first, it's going to take me a day. When it could have gone directly to level 2, right, and they could have fixed it, within an hour or 2. So I don't know how that works within the help desk continuum.
Yeah, I don't know how that specifically works too, but you can so you transfer the tickets, it automatically goes over there, and then they get most of the time, anytime it's going to get triaged, right? And so if they recognize it where it needs to be, if they can't handle it, then it escalate it. I don't know what their escalation processes are or the time, but that's what they would do typically. So in addition to help desk tickets, they can also do projects like Rob was talking about. So if you, and there's additional, so projects cost another additional fee. So like help desk, a desktop project that you organize with the Continuum is like $3. So so Mark Cristobal in California, one of his one of the people in his BNI had a virus that he came that attacked his computer and needed to get cleaned up. So what we did is I had Mark install the RMM agent on the computer, and then he set up a project to be able to get that done to do the removal of the virus. So that was $3. He was $3 or $6 in once he paid for the agent and paid for the project. And you can charge, whatever, $250 to clean a virus on a computer, right? So that is your lowest cost price that you can do with your with Continuum, because we have access to projects and for technicians and help desk. Okay.
If I could go back to the question that Jerome had asked about the tickets. So these tickets, somebody sets the priorities for them, right? If they are priority 1, 2, 3, and also the SLA governs how long it will take them, or what is the promised time to fix a priority 1 ticket and so.
So these are all great questions to ask the vendor, right? So when you're working with and choosing that you're going to work with them to select them to do your technician work or your help desk, we also have another help desk vendor. These are all great questions to ask them. I don't have the answers to it, but this is the strategy the questions that you need to ask them directly. How do they handle this? How do you handle this? They're very good questions, but I don't have the answer to it because I don't run their help desk.
So Teresa, one also quick question is the pricing you shared with us, is that the CMIT only pricing, or is for the rest of the world?
Yeah, this is CMIT pricing.
So this gets negotiated every year, every 2 years?
I don't know how long their contract is for. I don't know.
The reason I'm asking is, because we are a big corporation, right? CMIT with 200 franchisees. So how do we track all our individual CMIT owners and their experience with Continuum and how they do things and how things going? There could be several metrics, which you can start tracking and, start as a tool as evaluating their service offerings. And I want to know is how CMIT Home Office does that now.
So Stuart is in charge of the Alliance Partner Management and communication, direction, kind of evaluation and all of that stuff. That's his role, and that would be best addressed by him, because I don't know how he does it.
Okay. Yeah, because I'm not sure, because just being one owner, I can't have, but I think I can leverage overall 200 plus owners, as a whole family, and say, hey, everybody else is getting great service, so I should also expect a great service.
Right. Absolutely. So we do have definitely escalations. So if you're having a service issue, so you can put that onto Stuart is always the escalation piece within those alliance partners. So I actually had, when I was talking to Mark, no, it was somebody else, Todd had an issue with Dell, and so I said I'd escalate it into Stuart and see what he says, and because all that feedback does need to go to Stuart because he manages the relationship with those vendors, those alliance partners.
Thank you.
Okay. And so one of the other things that I will go over here, so dedicated technician. So this is one of the options that Rob was alluding to, that we have Robin, who is like a level 1-2 technician that we've been using remotely. He's in India. He does a lot of our first level tickets. but he's dedicated to CMIT, so we can use him however we want to use him during those for those projects and the tickets that we have him working on. But your price for that is at $27.50 for a month, an 8 to 5 kind of technician that works for you full time. They're remote, but it's really a good price that you can get with it for a qualified technician. And you can interview and qualify that person if you want to hire them as your technician, as your remote technician.
And that technician will be customer facing, right? So the customer can directly speak to the technician.
Yes, if you choose.
Okay, because I think in the class we learned that knock is not customer facing, right?
Right, because this dedicated technician right here. This person is not knock.
Oh, okay.
He's
Okay.
not a knock.
Okay. But that person may physically sit in the knock office, maybe.
He might be sitting in the knock, but he's a dedicated technician to you. He doesn't do knock work. He can he can help with transition and the communication to Continuum on projects and things like that. Work with, updating tickets, resolve basic issues, those kind of things, and he can communicate and monitor and do your work that you want to. He can assign work to the knock if he needs to. He can do the knock work if he needs to himself. That is very specific to, because he might know your customers better than other knock technicians. So that you can use him however you need to.
Now, so if I hire a level 2, is that person going to be just dedicated to my business, or will this person also be working on other franchises, other businesses? I'm just kind of trying to see what their capacity, what their responsibility would be.
So if you hire a level 2 dedicated technician, he's dedicated to your business. You can resell him to other people if you like.
So you mean like 2 or 3 CMIT franchisees can join hands and share one technician?
Yes.
But they have to know that, right? In other words, they'd have to work out what hours or what days, maybe 2 days for one franchisee, 1 day for that. They'd work that out. Is that something that's done within, like for instance, we have a dedicated L2 in our company. So I know what Ashish does and the things that we assigned him to do. But my expectation is that at this moment, he's dedicated to just us. I don't know. In order for him to work for another franchisee, we'd have to communicate that, or someone would have to communicate that to us, correct?
Right.
Okay.
So what I recommend, the best way when you're working with a franchise, a technician that you want to share with other people, that the technician has one primary leader, the one primary direct report manager, because I've had this happen to me where I bought somebody else's business, and the technician was working for other franchisees, and he was independent. So he pitted each one of the franchisees against each other. And so he said, I'm going to raise the prices because he's going to pay more over here. I'm working for him because I like doing his work more than I like doing your work, or whatever. And so it just became one of those things where it was just he was trying to be the boss of everybody, and it didn't work out very well. So I think it's best that you have one franchisee who's the manager and directly manages that employee. And then you can use the AutoTask has an inter-franchise ticketing system where you can transfer a ticket between the systems. And then you, as the primary franchise owner, the person that has the technician, can build a franchisee their pricing. There's a lot more to it in regards to the timing on when they do the work. People use shared calendars and sometimes can book on the shared calendar. Sometimes people, have to call and schedule it. So it just depends. There's a lot of logistics that go in with sharing a technician.
So quick question, Teresa, on that. If it's a dedicated resource, how do I track all the work that he's doing? In other words, he may be working on a ticket, and maybe a project, but in between that, right, during the day, is there a tracking system other than AutoTask? Because I'm assuming I use AutoTask because that's the way we can make sure from the billing and all like that it's accounted for, right?
So there's ways in AutoTask to track things like training. When they put in their time card, they can put in training or other hours and things like that. I like to have a running ticket to put things like, here's stuff that you're doing for the internal office, here's a training ticket, and you just put your training time on this training ticket every single time, because I want to know what they're training on. I don't want to just know training. It's like, I want to know that, hey, I'm taking a Datto class today, or I'm doing this. I just want to be a little bit more specific, and so I know exactly what they're doing, and instead of generically knowing what they're doing.
So they decide. That's what I was saying. They wouldn't decide that they're going to do the Datto training. That would be something that I would say, okay, yeah, you can do the Datto training next week. Because what I've done with them is determine from them on Fridays, everything that they completed during that week and what were their plans for next week. So then I can determine how I can reallocate the resources or make sure that they're spending the time where I want them to spend. They're not going to set aside training that I didn't know about, correct?
Well, it depends on how you use your time, and how you manage your team. So, there might be times that they're working. It depends on how hands-on you are, and whether they need to do some training on something specifically. But yeah, it's most of the time you'll probably know, but I just didn't.
Yeah, no, that's fine. You gave me what I needed to know. Appreciate it.
Sometimes text can hide time. It's like, oh, I don't know what I was doing this time, so I'm just gonna put it down I was training.
Yeah, that's not gonna fly. I mean, I already had a situation, so I'm working through that where something took a few hours that my on-site guy was gonna do it in 20 minutes, but I just wanted to see how it was gonna be done by this other person. So, yeah, you made it. What I'm doing, it sounds like I'm going down the right path. So, thank you.
Okay, good.
Hey, Teresa. So if I'm sharing a technician with two other franchisees, who determines the priority of tickets or projects, right? I mean, because is it like 30, or what percentage of work, or how will the technician know, oh, I got to work on this guy's first because it's more, or is it based on urgency?
Yeah.
So I don't know how.
So that's just something that you'll have to talk through. So there's a lot of different things like in tickets and AutoTask, you have high, low, medium, or 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 kind of priorities that determines kind of where do they fit, and kind of, there's general definitions that are associated with that. Those are kind of like a lot of the part there in the ITIL standards that kind of, hey, if the whole factories or the whole organization is down, that takes priority over anybody else's thing. And if it's just an individual person that's down, that's kind of not quite as the high priority. But if it's just a question or something, so it just depends on where it fits in there. There's general processes that's why you need a service delivery manager typically to be able to manage and coordinate these resources to make sure they're working on the right things.
Okay, I guess I could see where it cuts down some of that process, right? No, I first, you need to work on mine first before others. So, okay.
Yeah, so those are kind of just like any partnership. If you're going into partnership with somebody else, you need to talk about these different things, the scenarios, and making sure you understand them, and you kind of work through them in a reasonable manner, so that you understand how those are things are going to happen before they happen. Cool. All right, so I know we're digging down deep into service delivery, which isn't what we intended to do, but that's okay. Let's see. All right, so that was Continuum. So Continuum is one of our help desk choices. We have another help desk choice, which in Continuum you have the choice of going the U.S.-based help desk, which is in Pittsburgh, or the global help desk, which I think is in India. With GMS is another one of our partners that does help desk. And one of the key things to understand about GMS is that they support the user. It's per user pricing. So I support a user. In Continuum, they have each device that has an agent on it is also a help desk user. So if you've got more devices between each user, you're going to end up paying more unless you kind of separate. There's ways around it, but you're going to end up paying more. You just need to understand that Continuum is per device for help desk, and GMS is per user for help desk on the help desk side. Okay, so pricing. So the thing to know about with the differences between Continuum and GMS is that GMS has, and I didn't mean to go into all of these things, into each of these details, but GMS has tiered kind of pricing. So the more you utilize their help desk, the more it's going to cost you. So Continuum has fixed pricing. GMS has much more flexible pricing. So you will see in the pricing section here is how much you're utilizing the help desk. So if you utilize it more, you're going to pay more. So if you've got strong documentation so that you can drive down the issue, so that you're kind of rewarding your local tech team, because if your local tech team's doing their job and documenting and fixing issues and resolving things before they have to get continually before they become repeatable. So if they're repeatable issues, you kind of solve those repeatable issues. You lower your utilization, you lower your cost. You can lower your cost down to $6 per user. So those are just two of the help desks, but these are some of the cheapest resources that you have available to you.
Yeah, I thought we only had one until now.
You know how to change.
I thought we only had one help desk.
Ah.
All I heard was Continue. Ever since I've started, so I didn't realize that there was another flavor out there.
I'm a car.
Yeah. So they are in
Oh,
Canada.
that's me. I can. Good job.
But they're still a pretty good, Leslie Tarazi in the New York City area, she loves GMS because she's lowered her prices really down to that $6 level. So it's very affordable for her to have that help desk. And you're not having to answer phone calls. Okay. So let's go back about tech resources. Let me go back to my presentation. Oh, it stopped me.
Teresa, while you're heading for that, this group usually likes to take breaks right around on the hour. Are you okay with that for a time? Can we get them 10 or 15, or you want to just go ahead and hammer through?
Absolutely. We can do that real quick. That sounds good.
Okay, let's do this. Let's do 15. So that gets me back at 1:39 Central. Does that work? Teresa, you don't have anything after 2 o'clock, do you? As far as I think
No, I'm good.
You're booked for I guess we're calling office hours or after hours anyways. So we're going to run a little bit longer than that, but we'll get them to 15. So I just moved up. So 1:39 Central, 2:39 Eastern. Does that work?
Yes, sir. Thank you. Thanks, Chris.
No problem. Thank you, Teresa. Appreciate that.
Thank you.
I think Chris wanted a break.
Chris doesn't take breaks. Chris is all-knowing and all-seeing. See how that works? No, I'm not actually, I'm going to go now. Bye.
Oh my goodness. Why was she being a good one by herself? Almost empty.
Bill, thank you, sir.
He wins the prize.
Well, for that, and I had another ask for him, and he was gracious enough to accomplish that for me. Was that any easier, Bill, or is it still kind of the same? Why do I have to go through all this to get just a document uploaded?
Yeah, I didn't notice any change in the process of uploading document.
Okay. There's not a lot right now as it stands. There's not a lot of things I can take out of that process. I'm still looking into getting that easier to where it's just, let me just drag this thing in here and let's be on our way. So that still sits with me as a long-term goal. And I thank you for letting me have at it.
I mean, it's cumbersome, yes. But more than anything, it's the lack of instruction, you know. Yeah,
Okay.
I learned by click and error, you know. Nope, that didn't work. Let me try this out.
Gotcha. And I've tried to clean that up a little bit more and make it more segmented too, so you know what day something happened and where we needed things. But this is a new system for me, and I'm still kind of trying to get arms wrapped around it. So thank you for that.
The list of documents wasn't the problem. It's the upload process that was really
Okay.
just that